Welcome to Warp into War, your ultimate guide to Warhammer.
Welcome to Warp into War. Today we will talk about the latest news on points. Consider this explainer your frontline tactical dispatch for the 41st millennium. With the new edition literally right around the corner, the final pieces of the rules are slotting into place, and commanders everywhere are asking, what are the latest news about the Warhammer 40,000 game and the points system? Well, grab your gear and strap in, because we're breaking down a massive update that's going to fundamentally shift exactly how you build your armies.
Okay, so let's dive right into this timeline. Timing is absolutely everything in war, right? And this rollout is moving incredibly fast. Exactly 48 hours after the official transmission went live on Wednesday, June 17th, the new interactive Munitorium field manual opens up. I mean, this isn't just a slow trickle of information, it's a full-scale deployment. The new points for the entirety of Warhammer 40,000 are going live right on warhammercommunity.com and straight onto your devices. The fog of war is finally lifting, and you'll have absolutely everything you need to start planning those force dispositions immediately.
Now, your battlefield tech is also getting a pretty massive upgrade. The Warhammer 40,000 app is getting a complete overhaul. We're talking full integration with the new edition's rules, a brand new war journal to track your campaigns, and, this is huge, the critical ability to pull up your opponent's full suite of army rules and datasheets mid-game. Well, listen up. Here is a crucial warning for any commanders attending a farewell tournament for the current edition this weekend. You know, events like the Warhammer Open in Edmonton. You need to turn off your device's auto updates right now. Seriously. Once this app updates to the new edition, it will no longer support older rule sets. Do not let your tactical cogitators update right in the middle of your final 10th edition firefight.
Section 1. Shifting Tides of War. Why unit points are rising.
So we're seeing some really major shifts in unit costs, and it's all driven by changes in the core mechanics of the new edition. Some units have just become way more lethal or maneuverable under the new rules of engagement. So why are these specific units suddenly premium assets? Let's take vehicles with mid-range firepower. They can now easily open up wide firing lanes just by partially moving into terrain. Because of that massive tactical advantage, yeah, they cost more. Then you have Titanic units with the towering keyword. They're gaining those deadly plunging fire bonuses, which makes them absolutely lethal at short range, so expect a points hike there for sure. We're also seeing increases for large combat monsters and fast melee infantry. Why? Because it's significantly easier for them to navigate the battlefield and just charge right into the enemy now. Even psychers are going up, simply because their psychic weapons now ignore a lot of negative modifiers when they're fighting. And finally, with engagement range now flattened out to exactly 2 inches, units with surge moves are way more likely to catch enemy forces. You're going to have to pay a premium for that capability.
Section 2. Tactical Retreats. Why unit points are falling.
But hey, the tides of war ebb and flow, right? Let's take a look at the assets getting cheaper to field. Massive swarms of 20 or more models used to just absolutely dominate table space. But thanks to the new strict 9-inch coherency rule, they just can't spread out like they used to. As a result, their points are dropping. And what about artillery relying on indirect fire? Well, it's now weaker against distant targets that no one in your army can actually see, so those units cost less when you take them individually. Notice stealth units on this list? Since stealth no longer stacks with cover in the new edition, it's become a much more situational rule, which naturally leads to a point reduction. Also, if a unit has both Infiltrate and Scout, you now have to choose which rule to use each game. You literally can't use both anymore. Less utility means fewer points to field them. Makes sense, right?
Section 3. Strategic Limits. Duplicate units and weapons.
Okay, get a load of this verbatim quote directly from the latest dispatch. It reads, "Some units now cost more when included in your army more than once. We're looking at you, Defilers." Honestly, this is huge. If a unit is incredibly powerful and risks dominating competitive games when taken en masse, that second or third duplicate is going to cost you extra points. It perfectly limits their impact when they're spammed, but it doesn't punish the casual player who just wants to run one of every cool model in their collection. And honestly, as the article admits, Defilers are really cool. And this brilliantly illustrates the second part of that internal balancing, weapon upgrades. Because let's face it, some weapon options are just undeniably more powerful than others. Take the Redemptor Dreadnought, for example. The devastating Macroplasma Incinerator now costs an extra 10 points to equip. But notice the base cost of the Dreadnought. It actually dropped by 10 points. This means if you take the plasma and it nets out to exactly the same cost as before. But if you opt for the standard heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, your Dreadnought is effectively 10 points cheaper. It's a really granular, intelligent way to ensure all those loadout choices remain completely viable on the tabletop.
So what happens after this initial drop?
Well, this timeline shows a relentless commitment to ongoing balance. With millions of games about to be played globally starting June 20th, the studio knows players are going to discover synergies no playtest could ever predict. Because the first few months of a new edition are highly volatile, with all the new detachments and rules, the rules team is stepping in with aggressive monthly patches, starting right at the end of July. Once the dust settles, they'll transition back to the standard quarterly update rhythm to make minor course corrections for under- or overperforming armies. So you're literally never going to be stuck in a broken meta for long, which is a huge relief.
And that brings us to the end of today's dispatch. The board is set, the points have shifted, and the meta is about to be cracked wide open. Will you adapt to the rising costs or flood the board with cheaper swarms? I want to turn it over to you, commanders in the trenches. What are your hopes? See you next Saturday, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.